inland communities, but for tonight, mostly cloudy skies in store for us, south winds at about 5 miles per hour, and we're going to stay mild as our temperatures fall down into the middle and the upper 50s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Let MusicRewind.com transport you back to another era with 100 wartime memories. Enjoy the original recordings from the greatest artists from that time period, such as the Andrews Sisters, Duke Ellington, Dinah Shore, Glenn Miller, Doris Day, the Ink Spots, plus many more.
He's in the army now, a blowing reveille. He's the boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B.
Order 100 wartime memories now at MusicRewind.com or call 800-206-5002 and pay only $21.98, an unbelievable value for 100 songs on 4 CDs. Plus, get a bonus of reduced shipping. Just enter or mention promo code WARTIME55. Go to MusicRewind.com or call 800-206-5002 now. Don't forget promo code WARTIME55. This offer is available for a limited time to U.S. residents only and cannot be combined with any other offer.
If you want to talk about culture and politics without all the caterwauling, then you'll love Hertel Radio with me, your host, Andrew Donaldson, every weekday morning, 6 a.m. with a replay at 3 p.m. right here on the Big Talker. Catch it on the Listen Live tab on the app or watch on the Facebook page.
Yep. It's that time again, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, boys and girls. It's time to get up and get rolling. Get your book, catch the bus. Know that it's only Tuesday. Yep, we still got a long way to go to get to the weekend. Just thought I'd remind you in case you got a little too cocky thinking that you had this week wrapped up in a bow. Guess what? It's going to be cold today, and the weather does not care about what you think. It's 40-something, like 44 degrees right now. So much for that wonderful spring weather, the rest of which will be starting, it's going to bounce around quite a bit from the 70s to the 60s for the next week or so. Even down into the 50s. Mother Nature's a little confused right now. Not sure what she wants to do at the beginning of spring before she unleashes holy hurricane hell upon us in May. Which is interesting. Every year the different reports claim there's going to be so many, a record-breaking number of named storms. A record-breaking number of tropical depressions. A record-breaking... wait till he gets here. Wait till he gets about 25 miles off the coast of North Carolina, and we will go out there with every fan and shotgun and meme that we've got. And we will scare or embarrass or whatever it is they thought happened to get that hurricane out of our neighborhood. Worked once before, it'll work again. Who needs a hurricane evacuation route or any sort of action, safety, protection, emergency plan? We got memes, we got whiskey, we got shotguns, we got fans, we got this. We'll take care of that. Ain't no hurricane gonna bother us, man. Speaking of emergencies, we have our own emergency task force in town. Let's see here. One of them is a company. Fire at Hazmat Emergency Response and Remediation leaves one injured. The fire was contained. The crews were still battling the blaze as of the writing of this story at 6 o'clock yesterday. One person has been injured in a fire at an environmental services company in Whiteville. The fire started at around 4:40 at HERR, which is the Hazmat Emergency Response and Remediation, on Maltsby Street. Crews were still fighting the fire, but it was contained around 5:40. Hal Lauder with the emergency services said nothing is toxic inside the building and there is no need to evacuate at this time. No word yet on how the fire started. So just a gentle reminder that even if you are in the business of responding to emergencies and remediation, it can happen to you. So it's never too soon to have a plan. Oh, yes, the last segment of Mr. Donaldson's show previous to this one, Heard Tell, talking about, what's his name, Brady and his, out of retirement, in retirement, the football's worth $500,000, now it's worth $50. That's presuming Brady throws another TD pass, touchdown pass. Now, I'm not the sharpest bulb in the drawer, but it would require Brady to throw another touchdown pass for that ball to not be his last touchdown pass football. Now, Brady, who's probably in this for the money, doesn't have to do anything for the next year, and he will make more money than most of us combined will see in our lifetimes for that 1 year. I think at this point he's like a uniformed mascot, like, I don't even know what team he plays for anymore, but whatever team it is, it's like, just put on the mascot, because that's what you're there for. You're not there to play the game and be the monster. I mean, that's what we got these kids for, the ones who can take a hit. You're old, man. Retired, unretired. This is proof that the man should not be playing football, because obviously the dementia has set in that he can't remember if he's retired or not. Do I work today? Hell. But that could be the result of one too many knocks to the noggin. So I think that man should just hang on to his football and realize that Brady is not the spring chicken anymore, and he could take a hit in the second, what do they call those things? The second play of a game, and be carted off the field not to play, on the injured something, whatever those lists are. Ineligible to play for the rest of the year, but he still gets paid. Doesn't have to throw football, and the football that man owns for $500,000 is indeed, or will remain, until it is currently the last touchdown football. Whatever made it worth $500,000, right? So just hang on, man. Just hang on. That thing could still be worth $500,000 or more, right? This is the risk versus reward in an investment. But now everybody else is going to wait to buy a touchdown football until the player actually dies. Because then you know for sure, without a doubt, beyond anything else, that's the last one. It's like Prince's last record is indeed Prince's last record. Michael Jackson's last record is indeed Michael Jackson's last record. Bowie's last record is indeed Bowie's last record. We can't say that about Frank Zappa, though. Frank may be dead, but that studio is still cranking out music, man, and it's awesome. Talking about cranking out, we're cranking out some updates on the website, bigtalker.live. I forgot to mention this at the top of the hour. Please visit the website, bigtalker.live. There's an email link to send us any comments, questions, concerns, critiques, or compliments you may have. Our schedule gets updated regularly now. The updated app is coming your way soon for Android and iOS devices. All the streaming services, including your digital home assistants, can be partnered. So you can wake up and enjoy Heard Tell at 6 in the morning with your coffee, right? Just set your alarm, and instead of hearing a beep, 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 or anything like, right, you would hear the soothing, dulcet tones of Mr. Andrew Donaldson, the managing editor of ordinary-times.com, chirping to you. Heard Tell, 6 o'clock in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. Replay. And what's cool is he's got a Rolodex of people to interview. So on Sundays, a show twice on Sundays, airs twice on Sundays, 8 o'clock in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. And it is like a greatest hits of the interviews for the week, extracted and repasted into an hour-long program that, again, Sunday at 8 in the morning, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and the network, and again at 2 in the afternoon here on the Big Talker Network. Also had Paul Vallone on yesterday from his show, the host of Guns, Politics, and Freedom. We'll be meeting with him every Monday morning now, discussing more of the issues and things facing civil liberties, challenging civil liberties. This evening at 6 o'clock, we have All Things Brunswick, coming from the Brunswick County GOP in Supply, North Carolina, with your hosts, Bill, Mary, and Dan. I guess I should say hosts. There's 3 of them. Lately, but they've been having on a collection or the roster of candidates running for office in various races in Brunswick County. That's been incredibly helpful, so voters can, and you can go back to our Facebook and YouTube page and channels, go through the videos, and get a feel for who these candidates are, so you're not just blindly voting. But please vote. But it helps if you know who it is you're voting for. Find out where they're coming from and what they're doing. No other updates there? Nope. Okay. So on to some more local news. Oak Island Police Sergeant recognized for role in suicide prevention. An article written by Peyton Furtado, coming at us from the WAY website, our friends over there. An Oak Island Police Sergeant was honored Monday afternoon for his role in suicide prevention. Last September, Oak Island got a call around 9 p.m. about a young man considering attempting suicide. When Jack Huntsman arrived, he discovered the man was a paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne Division. Huntsman was a veteran of that division. He said the two talked for a couple hours. Huntsman was able to talk the Fort Bragg paratrooper out of attempting suicide by listening, using their similarities to relate to the young man. He was honored by members of the 2nd Brigade Combat Team Monday morning. Huntsman said, "Sometimes that's the best thing, just listening." The reporter, was that the best thing here, Huntsman? I don't know. I'm hoping it was. I'm hoping he's doing fine and well today. And as I let his commanders know, my number is available to him. Not that I'm anybody, but if he needs to talk more, I am certainly here. The town of Oak Island said they were extremely proud of Sergeant Huntsman's actions. Since this instance, the young man is reportedly doing much better, even getting a promotion at Fort Bragg. Sometimes that's all it takes. It didn't cost him any money. He didn't have to go to a store and buy him a bicycle or an ice cream cone. Just sit there and listen. And understand that it sucks sometimes. But it's not personal. the 24 hours in a day and the results of our actions, decisions, and those of others around us is an ever complicating web of interaction. As Andrew had pointed out, everybody is a blast radius. None of us lives in a vacuum on an island. I'm trying to. I'm kidding. But we're just not going to do this alone, so sometimes we need help. Sometimes we just need someone to listen that we're just not cool with the way things are right now and wish we could do something about it, but just, kick rocks. There are times it's going to be like this. Sometimes we are not going to be the center of the universe. And it can get us down. It can throw us off. It can derail our plans and make us feel like the entire thing is just a waste of time and coming apart at the seams and everything else. And it's just all bad, all bad, all bad. But it's not. Not at all. For example, as a fun, I'm not much of a hobbyist myself, but I know a number of people who are. The Cape Fear Community Center announces return of the Riverfront Boat Show. The event will showcase the art of boat building, featuring the work of Cape Fear Community Center boat building students and local craftsmen. Cape Fear Community College announced the return of the show, which will be held Saturday, March 26th from 9:30 a.m. until 4 p.m. on the Cape Fear Riverfront on Water Street between the Hotel Ballast and Coastline Convention Center. The event will showcase the art of boat building, featuring the work of Cape Fear Community Center boat building students and local craftsmen. A variety of wooden and fiberglass boats will be displayed along the riverfront as well as in the water. This event is free and open to the public. This is a great opportunity for our students to engage with other boat builders and to display their hard work. We are excited once again to host this event. Said Jay Rogers, Marine Technology Department Chair, there will be 10 judged classes, including special Summons Sea Skiff Awards. All proceeds from the boat show will support scholarships for the Cape Fear Community Center's boat building students. Show highlights will include dock space on the Cape Fear River, 16 judging categories, and a knot tying challenge. For more information about the show, please visit Cape Fear Community Center's website at cfcc.edu. If you want to know the rest of it, it's /boat-building/CFCC-riverfront-boat show. But I'm sure if you just get to cfcc.edu, you will be directed where it is you would like to go. That was just fun. Yeah. One of the things that's unique about being here as opposed to being in the desert is the amount of waterborne craft that y'all use, right? We grew up on mountain bikes and dirt bikes, and we didn't have mud flaps because there wasn't no mud. Anyway. Moores Creek closed Tuesday, today, for a scheduled control burn, which makes sense for the safety of visitors and the staff conducting the prescribed fire. The park will be closed all day today and will return to normal operations tomorrow. This is in Curry, North Carolina, where a friend of mine is currently hanging out. Has my bread machine I need to go get. Moores Creek National Battlefield will be conducting a controlled burn in the park on Tuesday, March 22nd. That would be today. The burn will begin at approximately 10 a.m. and will last approximately 5 hours. So at the end of this show, don't go to Moores Creek, okay? With residual smoke and small spot fires continuing through the rest of the day and evening for the safety of visitors and the staff conducting the prescribed fire, the park will be closed all day Tuesday. I already said that. I don't know why you typed it twice there, buddy, but The areas affected include the Southwest Unit, Savannah Unit, and the adjacent 48-acre property. The Southwest Unit is an area of the park that starts to the left of the entrance westward to the park boundary and then north to the creek. The area borders Highway 210 on one side and the Visitor Center parking lot and monuments on the other side. The Savannah Unit is the area between the Visitor Center and Battlefield, and the park's history trail encircles it. The adjacent 48-acre property is to the west of the park boundary and is a private property. So we're going to do a controlled burn, so that way when it comes time, like when a real burn comes along or some sort of fire fights up, we've already eliminated most of the fuel, which is a good thing. And unlike other burns, this is straight organic material, so the compounds lifted high into the air, known as embers and ash, will be inert, primarily just carbon and cellulose. Isn't that awesome? It's not going to have Gen X or ChemWars in it. No big deal. Carbon is easily handled by the planet. That's why we're here. I mean, this rock does a pretty good job of taking care of us. I don't know why we're not doing a better job of taking care of this rock. Anyway, affordable housing has always been a fun subject. Had a conversation with Mr. Zappo earlier about the investments that the county was making, and introduced us to the Eden Project, which I'm sure Eden.org, I think it is, or something like that. I'm sure you all visited after I mentioned that story. Anyway, let's see. This is coming out of the WWAY newsroom as well. Banks announced $12.1 million in investments with Cape Fear Collective for affordable housing. The investment is part of a broader initiative through Cape Fear Collective Ventures, a social impact investment initiative aimed at raising capital to scale solutions in affordable housing. Live Oak Bank, First National Bank, First Citizens Bank, First Bank, and Dogwood State Bank announced a $12.1 million investment with Cape Fear Collective designed to support affordable housing solutions in the Wilmington region. The investment is part of a broader initiative through Cape Fear Collective Ventures, social impact investment initiative aimed at raising capital. Why do y'all type the same sentence twice? In 2021, Live Oak Bank invested $2.5 million to acquire 20 residences in downtown Wilmington and Pender County. The latest investment from Live Oak Bank, First National Bank, the largest subsidiary of FNB Corporation, First Citizens Bank, and First Bank, totaling $11.1 million, supported the acquisition of 71 housing units and 66 properties located in or near downtown Wilmington, and additional flexible funding to support renovations on the properties. Dogwood State Bank invested another $500,000 in the Cape Fear region. Cape Fear Collective created Collective Ventures in 2021 with goals that included attracting $10 million in investments the first year and boosting the amount of affordable housing in the city. About 70% of the existing renters in the units receive some type of rental assistance to keep their housing costs at or below 30% of the income, which is the threshold for housing to be considered affordable. Megan Dennison, interim CEO of Cape Fear Collective, stated, "With social impact investing, we're able to be a competitive buyer in the marketplace and preserve these units as affordable housing. We have an opportunity to take private sector financing methods and apply them to a social mission. There is some real sustainable magic to that." And that's true. This is an investment in our community at the community individuals in the community level. Not all of us can perform at our highest levels, or at the level of our greatest men, something like that. I can't remember the quote, but basically, we're not going to kill ourselves all trying to be Stephen Hawkins or whatever. Some of us are just not blessed. Yeah, that's just what it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, bottom of the hour here on the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. And I think this would be a good time to take a few words, messages, and sponsors, and a little news and weather break. So we'll be right back. Don't go nowhere.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. New Hanover County Commissioners have voted to move forward with a sales tax referendum that would raise the sales tax by 1/4 cent. The extra money would be used to support public transportation. The referendum would be on the ballot in November for voters to decide on. If approved by voters, it would generate more than $144 million for the county over a 10-year period. Commissioners voted 4-1, with Commission Chair Julia Olson-Boseman voting against the measure. The Department of Justice announcing the arrest of 20 people suspected of drug trafficking in Brunswick County. Local law enforcement arrested 20 people accused of working in the drug trade. They confiscated 1,600 grams of cocaine, 300 grams of heroin, and nearly 10,000 grams of meth, along with dozens of guns. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives led the bust, working with a number of state, federal, and local agencies. 18 of the 20 arrested were from Wilmington and Leland, and Columbus and Bladen counties. At the pump, it looks like there may be a light at the end of the tunnel as gas prices begin to trend down. The average price of gas in North Carolina fell 9.5 cents per gallon in the last week. The average price is $4.08 according to Gas Buddy's survey of about 6,100 stations across the state. Prices in North Carolina are 66 cents per gallon higher than a month ago and $1.40 higher than a year ago. And as the American Idol judges continue their search for the next singing sensation, we know one local face who made it to Hollywood. Columbus County High School student Riley Madison got a golden ticket to Hollywood during her appearance on March 13th. The 16-year-old will also appear on the Hollywood Week episode on March 28th. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with the Storm Track 3 forecast. Today going to be another nice one here in the Cape Fear. Should stay dry and quiet with a mixture of sunshine and clouds, and those clouds really start to build in later this evening. But our high temperatures today going to get into the low to middle 70s for both coastal and those inland communities. But for tonight, mostly cloudy skies in store for us. South winds at about 5 miles per hour, and we're going to stay mild as our temperatures fall down into the middle and the upper 50s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
This is Radio Free Dixie, and I'm Mark Allen. We often hear people complain about fake news, but fake history is just as bad. The impression that many people have about the Old South is the result of fake history. For example, have you ever wondered why it was okay for 13 American colonies to secede from England, but wrong for 13 Confederate states to secede from the United States? The truth is that both groups had a God-given right to secede and plenty of good reasons for it. If your ancestors fought for Dixie, hold your head high and defend truth and honor. That's what real men do. Join the Confederate Legion, sponsored by the Sons of Confederate Veterans. Go to MakeDixieGreatAgain.com. That's MakeDixieGreatAgain.com.
I am State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better place. Visit us online at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Right here on the Big Talker Network. Please visit our website at bigtalker.live. That's what I thought. Just kidding. Welcome back to the Asylum here on the Big Talker, bigtalker.live. Please email us with any questions, comments, concerns, compliments, or critiques you may have, because we cannot improve without your input. Conservative radio, regular radio, talk radio, a whole new venture in radio. Continuing our local riffing on the news, the first ever Cape Fear Battle of the Breweries blood drive. I wonder what the maximum alcohol by volume is allowed when donating blood. Anyway, this is not only an opportunity for blood donations, but to support your favorite local craft establishments too. On Wednesday, that would be tomorrow, no, a week from tomorrow, the American Red Cross presents the first ever Cape Fear Battle of the Breweries blood drive. This is not only, the community is invited to give blood from 11 a.m. to 5 at Hotel Ballast located at 301 North Water Street and cast their vote for one of 15 local craft establishments. All presenting donors will receive a free t-shirt while supplies last, as well as special incentives from the craft establishment for which they cast their vote. All blood types are needed, and you can schedule your appointment by visiting WAY and clicking on the news story. Now, that's a little more comforting than originally thought, because the headline is like, okay, it's almost like a pub crawl that your favorite bar, after you're absolutely sideways 3 sheets to the wind twisted. Okay. That didn't hurt at all. Boy, I'm lightheaded. Yeah, so it's probably not a good idea to set up your blood drive in the brewery itself. So thank goodness for Hotel Ballast. So please do not go to your favorite brewery to donate your blood. Go to Hotel Ballast, where the Red Cross will properly, in a sterile environment, collect your donated blood. Then you vote for one of 15 local craft ale establishments. Then you can go get twisted. Got it. That makes sense. That makes all the sense in the world. Thank goodness. That would have had me worried. Of course, donating blood while hammered would, man, please don't drive. Ooh, performances and students. Oh my goodness. Cape Fear Community Center Performing Arts presents Our Leading Lady at the Wilson Center. Just because I know they're going to write this sentence twice, I'm not going to read the headline. Cape Fear Community College's Fine and Performing Arts Department will present this year's spring production, Our Leading Lady by Charles Bush. Cape Fear community students will take the Wilson Center Studio Theater stage April 21st through the 23rd and the 28th through the 30th at 7 p.m. Working on Our Leading Lady as the assistant director has been very eye-opening for me. Not only have I had the opportunity to dip my toes into the director world, but I've also learned so much from this play, shares CFCC theater student Emma Fullen. I have also learned about Lincoln's assassination and how the actors who were performing for him were implicated in his murder. I think it is so interesting to see what was actually going on behind the scenes. I have known for a long time that Abraham Lincoln was assassinated by an actor while he was watching a play. I never thought about how the assassination impacted the actors who were performing for him that night, added Cape Fear Community College Theater Program Chair Jessica Gaffney. This play has required both me and my students to examine the lives of the very real people who were performing on that ill-fated evening at Ford's Theater. Theater Program Chair Jessica Gaffney leads the production of Our Leading Lady, serving as director and producer along with Cape Fear Community College drama instructor Benjamin Weinert-Lischner, handling the set and lighting design. The stage crew is made up of students along with Cape Fear Community College Theater Arts Technician Kyle Wellman and Cape Fear Community College Adjunct Drama Instructor Chloe Chaffetz as costume designer. I mean, why have a drama department or fine arts department if you're not going to be performing or presenting the fine arts? that you are instructing. And I have to admit, I'm no real artist. I make washers. I don't make art. I make tech. I make things work. I don't paint beautiful landscapes or whatever. But it's good to know that we're teaching these kids not only how to produce a program or show, a play, but they're actually doing it like real grown-up adults. You know, you get to stand in line, buy tickets, and get your concessions and bebop on into the arena, into the auditorium. And hopefully not behave like some moron at the State of the Union address, that you'll actually be proper and polite. Anyway. I'm trying to parse this next story. Here we go. I still can't get it. State director participates in ribbon cutting at Whiteville High, USDARD. Department of Agriculture, Rural Development. Okay. United States Department of Agricultural, Rural Development State Director participates in ribbon cutting at Whiteville High. Columbus County utilized $14 million in community facility loan funds to demolish and reconstruct a 72,000 square foot building for Whiteville High School. The United States Department of Agriculture Rural Development State Director Regional Spike participated in the ribbon cutting ceremony at Whiteville High School in Columbus County yesterday. Using that fund and rewriting that sentence again to demolish and reconstruct a building on campus. The facility includes classrooms, computer labs, administration and guidance offices, cafeteria, media center, parking lot improvements, service drive for buses, and a service drive for spa. Spite was joined by several representatives from Columbus County Schools along with federal and local officials. We are proud of our continued relationship with Columbus County Schools. Said Spite, this partnership with this rural corner of North Carolina is helping to prepare their students, their children, for the future. Our continued investment into the future of rural American schools is a continued example of our motto, Together, America Prospers. Rural Development previously announced $44 million in investments with Columbus County to build elementary schools in Tabor City and Cerro Gordo. Fat Zero? Okay. So I guess Whiteville is getting a new, or has now opened a new building they can actually use. Having a new computer lab. I'm betting the building that was built 100 years ago didn't have an Ethernet built in, so they had to run those ugly pipes you nail or glue to the wall or whatever it is you do to hide them ugly wires. I don't. I like it. It's almost like colorful electronic spaghetti splattered all across my garage. Every color and flavor of cable you can imagine, adding to the spice that is the Big Talker Network. Which is why I keep coming back to it, because it's a fun place to be. It's talk radio like no other. It's literally just a handful of people, like-minded, trying to get words out, ideas out, mostly concentrating on the issues here in southeastern North Carolina. But we cover a lot of North Carolina. Whoops. And here's another one of those that I think it needs to be brought out there. This one's not in our southeastern, but in our northeastern. Suspended Wilmington attorney sentenced for visa fraud. So the attorney is out of Wilmington, but wait till you hear the rest of this story. Hackworth was found guilty of fraud in connection with visas, permits, and other documents. Coming out of New Bern, North Carolina, a suspended immigration attorney from Wilmington who pleaded guilty to impersonating another lawyer during her suspension will spend 366 days in federal prison. U.S. District Judge Louise Flanagan sentenced Roydera Hackworth to a 12-month and 1-day sentence along with 2 years of supervised release following her guilty plea in late 2021. Hackworth was found guilty of fraud in connection with visas, permits, and other documents, reviewed documents, and interviewed persons that Hackworth, quote, represented, and quote, revealed that Hackworth impersonated another licensed attorney, submitted various immigration-related documents which she signed under penalty of perjury representing that she was the other attorney, and averred that she was not suspended and was in fact authorized to practice law. Now I got to figure out what all these letters are. Anyway, a review by HSI and FDNS, whoever the hell they are, revealed that clients who were represented by Hackworth had no knowledge that Hackworth was submitting their immigration petitions and application under the name of the other attorney. The Department of Homeland Security Disciplinary Council said Hackworth's disregard of the Board of Immigration Appeal as suspension order appeals. Try again. The Department of Homeland Security's Disciplinary Council said Hackworth's disregard for the Board of Immigration Appeals suspension order caused harm to her clients and to the immigration system. Her unscrupulous behavior required further action to protect the public and the immigration system. We are thankful the U.S. Attorney's Office took the information we discovered and prosecuted Hackworth. Wow. The pain of this one is that, a lawyer should know what fraud is and how to avoid fraud and how to not commit fraud. Oops. Doesn't seem this lady got the memo. But okay. Now she's going to spend a year in prison and will probably not try to practice law again. Let's hope she doesn't oversalt her fries like the last arrested lawyer who ended up being disbarred and serving me a burger with fries that had more salt on them than I've ever encountered in my life. My entire body was desiccated in seconds. Yeah. Don't commit fraud. Don't run scams. And all will be well. That's the way it is sometimes. You just gotta put up with it, deal with it. But at the same time, it's, in her case, being a little, it's a captive audience. I mean, these people are terrified, they're scared, and they're relying on you as a lawyer. So to violate that trust is absolutely heinous. And knowing you are already in trouble does not make their lives any better. But this is our separation of us from them. She probably saw these people as not necessarily victims or scared or individuals or people, but rather paychecks. Ka-ching, ka-ching. You know what I'm saying? But I think that's true along any lines where you have a representative situation where your constituency, those you're representing, just sort of fade into the background. They become, I don't know, that you, almost like that one carpet stain that's there from when your child spilled some juice when he was 3. And it's just there. You just walk by it. You tried to clean it up. You spread it around, dried it out a little bit. It's still a stain right there, and you just keep walking by it because it's not worth doing anything about. It's just there. It's part of the rug. It's part of what you walk on. There's no concern to what that issue is. And so many of the representatives, keep in mind that at the local level, the municipal level, the local regional areas, your constituency is closer, to 20-1 or 50-1, something like that. But if you think about it, the president is, in theory, representing 330 million people. There's no way he's going to be able to connect. It's just impossible for any one person to connect with 330 million people. You can make little chants and logos and cutesy chants, I guess, for, slogans or whatever. But that doesn't mean that you are connecting and understanding and relating to 330 million people. You just can't do it. That's what our representatives are supposed to be about. The problem is they're representing several 100,000 people each. And when they're acting out for their own means, for example, during the State of the Union address or during the confirmation hearings, and these clowns are not representing, they're acting out of their own accord. Not representing you or me or the people in their constituency or whatever district. They're doing it for their own attention. And the problem is they keep getting voted in. These people should not be allowed in the chamber whatsoever. No sense of decorum, no sense of sacredness. Remember my political science chirping that America is still a very delicate experiment that could fail at any time, and almost did, and may yet still. It is fragile, and it's something we all need to sort of, pay attention to and weed out these bad actors. The downside to being in office is that any jackhole can run for office. Even convicted felons convicted of embezzling while in office can again run for those offices once they're out of prison. I think we need to install some sort of barrier to entry. As was pointed out on the show previously, on Andrew's show, that is, the disparity, if you will, of the actual, the groundhogs, the boots on the ground, the real people doing the work in Washington, D.C., cannot afford to live there on the salary that they're paid by their offices. So in order to live and work in D.C. at these positions, you have to already have money. It's kind of like the old joke. How do you make a small fortune in the music industry? The answer is you start with a large fortune. So if you're going to be a staffer, you need to start with a large fortune so you can make a small fortune when you get elected. Then when you get elected and you get all the insider information, you get to vote to support these people that are putting money into your political action campaign fund. And suddenly, you're worth several $1 billion. There's a number of people in the United States Congress and House of Representatives who have done exactly this. Their meager salary in office had ballooned into ginormous dividends somehow. And this, I think, is indicative of some sort of issue Because if these people can do it, every American can do it, should do it, right? So every bit of information that your representatives have should be available to everybody so that we can invest just like they do. I'll take that a step further. We should have the same health care that they do. We should have the same legal representation that they do. They are Americans just like me, just like you. How is it they get such special treatment? How is it they get a special health care for the rest of their lives paid for? You and I won't. And it's only certain elite group. And I'm not sure the state representatives are going to get lifetime care and lifetime paychecks. A lot of this needs to be revisited and re-examined. Maybe options and safety measures put into play to prevent, to try and minimize the potential for this type of corruption. Because you've leveled the playing field. And on the other side of the coin, if Joe Plummer can be arrested at work under whatever suspicions the court has, they should be able to do the same for any sitting representative or president. Period. None of this tiptoeing around crap. If you have the evidence, arrest, indict, prosecute. That's the way it works. If you're Joe, the regular guy, you, me, and the movie attendant, the theater attendant, we're all Americans. How is it some are more American than others? This is sounding Orwellian in a way. If you're in office, you can benefit from insider information on trading, but you can't if you're an underling or a state representative. Or what's the problem? Where is this issue so that it can be addressed and corrected? Because it's not fair for some Americans to get this and some Americans to not get this. If it's supposed to be our rights, then those rights should apply across the board, whether you're the President of the United States or the President of the Sanitation Department of your local company, which is usually the owner of that company. So if we're going to make changes, we need to start making changes and addressing them, but we need to get these clowns out of office that are going to sit there and act out for their own gain, as opposed to, because that's not how I would want to be represented. If that was my representative up in there, I would have definitely written a letter. Come on now. Let's not be jerks. Let's try to be adults about this. If you're going to act like some playground bully, throwing rocks at the other kids in the playground, in the sandbox, then I don't think you need to be in office. You should just resign and, go do something masochistic. Like maybe be a counselor at a summer camp or something. Or if you're going to yell at people, maybe you go work in a laundromat. There's a number of things you could do other than pretend to be a representative when obviously you have no marketable skills and are inherently useless otherwise. So, hey, you can run for office. You don't even have to have a high school diploma. You have to have a GED at least to train to be a police officer, but you don't need any of that to be in office. All you got to do is be born right here in America, and you too can be a representative. And then you can act out all crazy and stupid when the president's talking during the State of the Union address because you need a little attention. Mommy didn't hug you enough. Or whatever the problem was. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to try and get some real adults on the phone here in a minute. So please don't go nowheres. Oh, wait. There it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after these words and messages, news and weather break, right here on the Big Talker Network. We'll be back at the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Don't go nowhere, we'll be right back.
Keeping Whiteville informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
Teachers and parents, the North Carolina Symphony is here to support you as you carry on the education of your children and students. Take your kids on a free virtual field trip to the Symphony with a virtual education concert and companion student book. Go on a virtual journey to learn what makes music music with music by William Grant Still, Beethoven, Brahms, and more. Access the free video and student book with password 1932 at ncsymphony.org/virtual.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. New Hanover County Commissioners have voted to move forward with a sales tax referendum that would raise the sales tax by a quarter cent. The extra money would be used to support public transportation. The referendum would be on the ballot in November for voters to decide on. If approved by voters, it would generate more than $144 million for the county over a 10-year period. Commissioners voted 4-1, with Commission Chair Julia Olson-Boseman voting against the measure. The Department of Justice announcing the arrest of 20 people suspected of drug trafficking in Brunswick County. Local law enforcement arrested 20 people accused of working in the drug trade. They confiscated 1,600 grams of cocaine, 300 grams of heroin, and nearly 10,000 grams of meth, along with dozens of guns. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives led the bust, working with a number of state, federal, and local agencies. 18 of the 20 arrested were from Wilmington and Leland and Columbus and Bladen counties. At the pump, it looks like there may be a light at the end of the tunnel as gas prices begin to trend down. The average price of gas in North Carolina fell 9.5 cents per gallon in the last week. The average price is $4.08 according to Gas Buddy's survey of about 6,100 stations across the state. Prices in North Carolina are 66 cents per gallon higher than a month ago and $1.40 higher than a year ago. And as the American Idol judges continue their search for the next singing sensation, we know one local face who made it to Hollywood. Columbus County High School student Riley Madison got a golden ticket to Hollywood during her appearance on March 13th. The 16-year-old will also appear on the Hollywood Week episode on March 28th. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with the Storm Track 3 forecast. Today going to be another nice one here in the Cape Fear. Should stay dry and quiet with a mixture of sunshine and clouds, and those clouds really start to build in later this evening. But our high temperatures today going to get into the low to middle 70s for both coastal and those inland communities. But for tonight, mostly cloudy skies in store for us. South winds at about 5 miles per hour, and we're going to stay mild as our temperatures fall down into the middle and the upper 50s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Acoustic wave therapy at the Frank Institute is a revolutionary treatment for inflammation, issues of blood flow, and is a solution for the constant suffering of chronic pain. Through the localized transmission of sound waves, stem cells are stimulated to bring about restored blood flow, vascular regeneration, and the disbursement of pain receptors to affected areas. If you've been told that your issues could not be treated without surgery or prescription, give us a call. Non-invasive, non-surgical, and prescription-free. Acoustic wave therapy is only available at the Frank Institute. Call today, 910-679-8534, and ask about acoustic wave therapy.
If you want to talk about culture and politics without all the caterwauling, then you'll love Hertel Radio with me, your host, Andrew Donaldson, every weekday morning, 6 a.m. with a replay at 3 p.m. right here on the Big Talker. Catch it on the Listen Live tab on the app or watch on the Facebook page.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Time to grab your books, time to grab your bus. Time to get up, rise and shine. And it's only Tuesday, just reminding you it's a cold Tuesday. And you're just going to have to deal with it. One more crazy element in your day. Oh yeah. Let it all out, ladies and gentlemen. Just bang your head. Sometimes that's the best thing we can do. Just get slamming. Get to jamming. Strap up your big boy boots and get to going. You know what I'm saying? That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. It's also why we have fantastic conversations with cats like Andrew Donaldson from Hertel. One of the smarter cats with a Rolodex of people had a nice guest, an incredible guest on this morning talking about the carbon discharge, the taxes and dividends and whatever. It's just insane. But they unpack it a little bit so that even people like me can understand it. I can't say that I do. I didn't quite catch all of it. So I am going to be participating, enjoying, and listening to the replay of Hertel at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Available here on the Big Talker Network. The video, therefore, is also on our YouTube and Facebook channels in perpetuity, or until the sun explodes, whichever comes first. We have other shows like this evening at 6 o'clock. All Things Brunswick premieres. It'll be streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter as well as on the Big Talker Network. Coming from the GOP headquarters in Supply, North Carolina. Bill, Mary, and Dan have lately been perusing and grilling all of the candidates that are going to be on the ballot coming up. It's a good time to meet and greet your candidates, find out who they are, what they're about, what their philosophy is, etc. They had circuit courts, they had school board, they had judge candidates, all them cats on there. Working on bringing other programs in. Yesterday had a great conversation with Paul Vallone of Guns, Politics, and Freedom. His show premieres on Saturday mornings and has an aggressive replay schedule throughout the week. So if you have any passing interest whatsoever in your civil liberties, believe me, this is a show you want to participate. You want to tune into. So please visit bigtalker.live for our schedule. Click on the email to send us any comments, questions, concerns, critiques, or compliments you may have. We could use them all. That's how we get better. That's how we get stronger. That's how we get cooler. If you haven't already, which is how you would be hearing my voice, you can participate, enjoy, download, and let's see. What else do you get to do with it? You get to use the Big Talker app, which is being revamped even as we speak.
Please stand by.
What just happened?
We now take you live to the Institute of Rational Thought for a special broadcast.
What the hell is going on?
Hard-hitting interviews and relevant
It's
information
like
to make
whenever
your
the phone
day.
rings,
It's Chad
this happens.
Adams.
Chad, is that you?
Well, with an intro like that, why wouldn't I do it every day, you know?
That's been my question for a minute.
Yeah, well, a lot going on, obviously, and sorting through it all. It has not been a fun year from a family standpoint, but I'm very blessed in life and thankful to have the family and friends I do have. So, anyway, good morning.
Good morning. I have a question for you. I want your opinion, because I'm betting you had a television tuned into the confirmation hearings yesterday.
A little bit, not too much. Still a lot going on, but was able to catch some of it.
Did you catch any of the clownishness?
Well, you know, it's funny. If you watch enough of these, you start to realize that it's funny. What's funny to me about it is this ridiculousness. I mean, it's almost a closed system where you get certain people from the most elite Ivy League schools instead of any kind of broad section of American backgrounds. You know, regardless of race, regardless of sex, regardless of sexual predilection, whatever those things are.
Not everybody got to go to Yale.
Harvard and Yale.
Right.
Yeah, and so you get and you wonder, and they all come like from the D.C. circuit almost. It's almost to think that it's a diverse group just because of the melanin in their skin is a little bit absurd. So that notwithstanding, the second absurdity, when you this is going to sound very partisan. I don't mean for it to, but I'm trying to be objective about it. I try to be. The way in which Bork was, when they got rid of Judge Bork back in the 80s, that was and it became a phrase, to be borked, mean to be removed from society, kind of, because he actually was a good jurist, and the political left treated him in a way, from an historic standpoint, the way no other Supreme Court justice nominee had ever been treated. That was a new approach to Supreme Court justices. And when they went through the Clarence Thomas one, that was embarrassing and appalling and horrific. He should never have gone. That whole Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas, the Coca-Cola can stuff, and it was just horrible. I couldn't believe that stuff was on TV. So it was interesting that it's almost all of them: Bork, Clarence Thomas, Amy Coney Barrett, Kavanaugh. The degree of rancor against any type of conservative judge was a bar I hadn't that never happened on those on the left. Not the same. And so Ted Cruz yesterday, I'll give him credit. I disagree with Cruz on several issues, but the way he articulated, TK and Chad should have the right to ask Judge Jackson about her voting record without it being seen as sexist or racist. It's not racist or sexist to ask a person with the highest position in the land serious questions about their judicial decision making. And I'm appalled. You may be appalled for different reasons. I'm appalled at the fact that people would scream racism just because you ask her tough questions. That's disconcerting and bothersome.
Well, I remember doing
and
this,
the fact that
the show All Things Brunswick on Tuesday nights has had not a rash, but a series of candidates for the local area on their show, and several of them were judges, and they said, you can look at my voting record, and you can see this is how I vote on a consistent, so she's presenting, or I should say there was three of them, all presented their voting history voluntarily.
Yep.
So that's not that's just data. That has absolutely nothing to do with...
That does, and you should be able to ask questions about what's the mindset that led you to make these decisions. What's the constitutional basis upon which you decided to go below? One of the lines of inquiry was about sentencing guidelines, that these child sex offenders got way below the normal, it was within the guidelines, but why did you consistently sentence child sex offenders below the federal guidelines, like at the lowest level you could do? Why? So there's a reason. If it's a pattern, there's a reason for the pattern, and that's a legitimate line of inquiry. But the left screaming, "Oh, it's racist to ask her that," it's not. It's not racist at all. I think we as Americans should ask tough questions. I did like that Ted Cruz says, I'm not going to ask you what you did in high school. I'm not going to ask you what you wrote in somebody's yearbook. I'm not going to ask you, those kind of questions were ludicrous during the Kavanaugh hearings. It was insane the way in which stuff from high school 35 years earlier became a central focus of a Supreme Court nomination. Also, a historic point that's never occurred before and happened to a Republican nominee or a nominee from a Republican president. At least Amy Coney Barrett wasn't as bad. There were still tough questions. She should ask tough questions, should have been asked. But the Kavanaugh hearing was also a low point. This one won't get there. She'll be confirmed, and it'll be bipartisan. She will be confirmed. It will be bipartisan. And let's not forget, Joe Biden voted against her on the D.C. circuit when she was recommended for that post. People forget that. And it's like, well, he voted against her. He lobbied against her, said he didn't want her. It's just okay.
And now he does, but
anyway,
it's a different gig.
Now he does. Because he said, and this is a serious problem that should concern everybody. I don't care what your political stripes are. When you start selecting people because of the color of their skin or their sex or their sexual orientation, that is the worst thing you can do for your company, for your country, for a justice, for anything. That is not what you do. Unless there is something very physically demanding or there's no reason. If we're spending our time saying that we're all equal, if we're spending our time saying black, white, Indian, whatever, if we're all equal and the genders are equal, then that ought to be not a qualifier for the position. Because then we're going to start screaming, we don't have enough Native Americans on the Supreme Court. If you believe in that, then that's what you're going to say. We don't have enough Asians. And then what you're going to discover is we really don't have enough positions to represent every race on the planet and every creed, background, age. Oh, we don't have any that are young enough or old enough.
So we're going to end up with a 35-member Supreme Court.
Oh, and then you start getting into, backgrounds where you raised with a single parent. We need more single parent justices. We need more multi-parent. We need more, hey, they needed to have gay parents because if you don't have gay parents, that's not represented on the court. It gets to the point of absurdity if you go down these rabbit holes. You get to the point that it defies logic, and it's not about being a good jurist. It's not good or healthy for the country, for anyone. I don't care what again, irrespective of political ideologies, it's about being a good jurist. And you can believe, as many on the left do, that the Constitution is an ever-living, breathing, changing document, or you believe the original founding intent. That's kind of the two schools that you need to look at when you're looking at a jurist.
Now, what's interesting is the Heard Tell program by Andrew Donaldson had a couple of segments, couple of shows that were highlighting the extreme numbers slanted away from anything not white, not male, not old. And that's been true in just in the D.C. staffing area because, the cost of living is impossible to float as an aide or a staffer. But from the episode on the Supreme Court, I think it's like there's 8 or 9 out of our 200-year, 250-year history that aren't old white men. And that was quite an interesting discussion.
That's true. Absolutely true. And it had to do with the many things. The beauty of this country is it addresses those issues over time. We become, in general, I think we become better and more open over time across spectrums. And the unfortunate thing we do is we judge previous points in history from today's realities. And I think that's unfair to the people who lived then and made decisions then. It's easy when you have a lot more, 100 years from now, I'll put it this way, 100 years from now, people are going to look at this day and age and think we were a bunch of primitives. And they will judge us. There will be people on whatever political ideologies exist in the future. They will look back at us and go, why did you do these things? Why, I can't believe you people, maybe that they used fossil fuel in their car. Oh, my God, they're primitive, horrible human beings. Without looking at the time, when you look back at history and you judge people and you judge slavery, it's interesting that slavery in this country is the horrible history of slavery is only black-white. When you go back, in the entire issue of race looked very different in Europe 150, 200 years ago the way they looked at race, even though it was inaccurate, looking at the way they looked at the Irish or the way the English looked at the Germans, or these kind of things. I remember being in a castle in Edinburgh. I was studying in Scotland, and I went to tour the castle in Edinburgh, which is a strange castle. It's a place it should have been. It was easily poisoned. The waters. Anyway, long thing on defensiveness of castles. But they had a prison cell in there, and the sign said this is where they kept the French prisoners, and they hosed them down once a month, whether they needed a bath or not. That was the way in which. Yeah, exactly. And so, 150, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 400 years ago, that's how the English looked at the French at times. They were animals. They were less than human, and that's something that persists in tribal, human history, whether it's in, Africa or Australia or South America or whatever country. It has been that way. And for those who are familiar with the Book of Exodus, that's another thing, the way the Egyptians treated the Israelites. So it's not new. Slavery isn't new, but judging things, it's just an example of judging things through the prism of history. Okay. We have to look at the worldview and then judge it on that, rather than say, oh, we're all educated today, and those were a bunch of primitives.
Now, how do you feel about raising the barrier of entry to some of these positions? Like back in the day when this was all set up, education wasn't a established institution.
I'm not sure
yet.
which way you're going, but
okay,
I'm asking, so there's two different strains here. Are you asking with respect to having degree requirements to do certain things, or are you saying the way they're looking at appointing judges and that are you having a more general question there?
Kind of, yes. I mean, like, for example, we don't have any barrier to electing felons, but we have apparently, I think it's California, has two candidates up for election that are running that have been convicted of embezzling while in office, and they're running for office again.
You have two in Charlotte. You have two Charlotte City Council people that are convicted felons that are running for office right now.
That's the one.
It was in Charlotte. And here
How
in
the
North
hell
Carolina,
can they even be on the ballot? They've been arrested.
It's an amazing reality. You served your time. That those particular are some offenses that you can't, but those particular offenses they can, and that happened while they were in office.
Right.
One of them was taking money to get decisions made in favor of that particular interest, and they served their time. And now they're running for office again. So, they have surrendered their ability to earn the public trust, and you would think that would be, especially doing it in office. But I can remember, you'll remember this. Remember Mayor Marion Barry, D.C. mayor, with the crack pipe, and he gets caught on tape smoking crack in a room, and that's not. And his claim was he was set up, and I'm like, no one made you take that crack pipe, man. And
just like
and
that thing with Borat and Giuliani. Sorry, that's.
Oh yeah, and he was still in office. But Mayor Barry, Giuliani, to his credit, isn't in office and probably never will be in office again. But Barry was still in office and became a hero for his cause. And you have to wonder, that's the heroic bar. But as far as you talked about raising the bar for entry. Politics is funny. You can be anything and run for just about anything. And the North Carolina General Assembly is all of them are pretty non-exclusionary. You can be of almost any avocation and run for office, the exception being like DAs and judges. I mean, there are candidates that are trying to go out there saying, hey, they need to make it more restrictive to be in public office. There's one candidate in Brunswick County running for clerk of court that believes the General Assembly should change the law and make it so that only lawyers can be clerk of court, which is a horrible idea and totally against the founding of this state and founding of our Constitution. That's not what you don't need more lawyers in office. It's just not a good look. Yeah, so I was kind of surprised when I saw that, and I thought, wow, not only did they say, hey, it's good to be a lawyer, they think the law should be changed to make it only lawyers. And I think most freedom-loving Americans do not think that's necessarily a good move.
No. But then again, that's not the barrier I would want anyway. I would want something like, if you lost your ability to carry a handgun or vote in an election, you should not be allowed to run for office.
Yeah, you would think there would be something along those lines, and there are. I mean, if you're a former, if you're a registered sex offender, then I think you forbid. No, but let's take it a step further in the other direction.
All right.
Also, I think you should have to be an American citizen to vote. And there's a big movement in both the West Coast and in New York to take non-citizens and allow them to vote. And that's an alarming. There's over 200,000 immigrants from south of the border that have come in, and New York City allowed them to vote in the municipal elections. And they're trying to get them to be able to vote in statewide or for congressional seats. And that's a big legal fight that's going to take place. That you would think that citizenship would matter. Otherwise, it's just make it a global election and let everyone pick, everybody.
So Russia could vote for the president.
Sure. Yeah, if you had enough Russian immigrants. Their only classification is that they must be residing in the place in which they're voting. But if you're not if you're not
Mark
even
Meadows.
legal. Oh, that's a good one, actually. Mark Meadows facing a really tough time. It's interesting they're going after Mark and Cawthorn, by the way. They're trying to prevent Cawthorn from being able to run for office. And the media is trying to put Cawthorn up as if he's a Republican nominee for the governor at some point. I think that's a little foolhardy. And then they went on to say, well, he's too young to even run for governor in the state of North Carolina, which is also true. Those are interesting dynamics. They're propping up. There's two people they're propping up to run for governor on the Republican side here, and that's Mark Robinson, a firebrand conservative that has said many things that are cringeworthy. I think he's a nice guy and he's a great orator. He's a fantastic speaker, but he doesn't have a depth of policy, and he gets himself in trouble. But that's loved by many in the hardened grassroots, and they put up Madison Cawthorn, and the media writes about this a lot. What they won't write about is people that are really serious, salient candidates like a Dale Falwell, who's treasurer for the state, who has a remarkable record, who isn't as controversial and is very well thought out and well thought of, and just received a national award for transparency in office. And many people would be ill-pressed to call Dale, some kind of arch conservative. I think Dale, from a fiscal standpoint, is. And I think he's done a stellar job as treasurer. But the media won't write about people like Dale. They'll write about.
They don't sell cars. They don't sell carpets.
They don't sell. You're right, and that's the problem.
That's why we have him on our show. You had him as a guest on your show.
Yep, I did. I thought a lot of Dale and still do. But we define our political movements by their extremes, and that is a problem. If you look at the political right defines the political left by Alejandro Ocasio-Cortez and the rest of those, Rashida Tlaib. That's the right wants to define the left by its extremes, and the left wants to define the right by its extremes. And unfortunately, that's not really healthy for us, and it pushes us further apart. And then you end up, they don't define them, but when they're angry, the left defines their own party by what they consider extremes, like Joe Manchin, who's not an extremist at all. Manchin is a very moderate Democrat who has some conservative fiscal thoughts. And he's under savage attack right now. And then you look at Liz Cheney and these others. Now Liz Cheney and them have attack, and Adams the Zinger or whatever, Kid Klingser, I can't even say his last name. But those two have been run out of their parties because they've really adopted an ideology that's not in unison with the party base, which is the more center-right group of Republicans. It's a weird world, dude.
It does seem to be almost self-fracturing, that trying to maintain such an extreme, like it's a continuum from, center to center left or center right or whatever the terms you want to use. But that's an interesting way to define it, is that the more, the one extreme defines the other. And inherently, these extremes are going to push further and further apart.
There's
because you need to be more outlandish to stand out. So you need to be more
in a way, because the media, in social media, which is the current way we define things broadly, the Kartrashian way of looking at things. It's unfortunate but true. We define it. I'd say two things. One, if you're fortunate enough to have someone that cares about you in spite of all the things you know about yourself, in other words, if you're married or in a serious relationship, you would never leave your significant other over a small disagreement. But in politics, especially on the political right, they will abandon a candidate if they disagree with them on one issue. If they really disagree with them on one issue, I would never support insert political name Republican because he or she said or did this. And yet you wouldn't apply that standard to your wife. Nobody's going to agree with you 100% on all things all the time. And that's the nature of reality. But but you find a way to work with someone. The second thing I would say, and that's a problem on the political right, and it's a more serious problem on the political right than most people realize. Because if you then you start looking at the two parties. The political left has always been, well, at least in modern times, since about the 1960s, has been a loosely held coalition of special interests. In other words, the people who want abortion to be the number one issue don't really care that there's an anti-gun group out there. The anti-gun people don't really care that there's a whole group that want to make illegals able to vote. Those people don't care about the fact that LGBTQ need to be given special consideration. So these groups, in and of themselves, aren't really offended by the other groups. So when it comes time for a politician to get elected, they have a broad coalition of very, very specific special interests that support a given candidate on a broad, but they don't just abandon each other over one issue. On the political right, the groups out there are very willing to not work together. It's very difficult to get a bunch of special interests on the right to care about each other. And you see this, when the NRA is out there supporting candidates, they only care about one issue, and that's it. And they don't care about the anti-abortion crowd. And the anti-abortion crowd only cares about that issue, and they're not necessarily willing to be tolerant of someone who's less than 100% on board. So the right is not as tolerant of itself. The left is not as tolerant of ideology across a broad spectrum. But they support their candidates. They're really good at playing team ball, and that's why Democrats are very successful.
Now, it did sound there for a minute like a parallel with some of the way bills are introduced and rushed and voted or vetoed, where the entire bill is supposed to do something, but in order for this person to vote on it, they had to put an additional non-related item in there, like pork bellies or something. And then this person's not going to vote for it, so this whole bill that has died because of all the crap that's not associated with the bill itself. So there's a lot of this.
Having straight up pure bills are very rare. I mean, and having bills that are actually read by those who vote on them are very rare. And you could pass a law all day saying you have to read a bill to pass it, but no one can prove whether or not you read a bill because there's no test on page 1700.
Actually, there is
exclusion for people.
There is,
but there's
Van Halen
how do you prove it?
Van Halen did this, and they were famous for it. So because they were the biggest rock band,
you're talking about the green M&M,
yes,
right?
Sir. Well, that if those M&Ms were not removed, they could tell that they had not read the entire writer.
But those are planting Easter eggs in contracts. So the problem with this is, for instance, when Nancy Pelosi stands up and say you have to pass the bill to find out what's in it, what she said then was already true. It's just that the American public became acutely aware that was the way, the MO in D.C.
And
so we have that, and it keeps going. And these bills that are 2,000 and 3,000 pages long, that nobody
24 hours.
With less than 24 hours to review it, nobody, literally not even the staff, have read these bills. They've read their part, but they haven't read the other parts. And
it would take a team of 20 people to read 50 pages each, and then somehow coordinate.
And I don't see that changing. This is where, if you're a student of history and you see the rise and fall of great societies, that's why there are many people that believe that America is in decline on that front, because we've become so bureaucratic, top-heavy, and very lumbering with respect to the things we do. We need to get away from it. The only way to save the Republic, in my 2 cents worth, and then I've got to run because I've got a show to do 10 to 12 on WBT today, is we've got to get back to more local control. In other words, we've got to divest ourselves of this belief that D.C. has the answers to all of society's problems. It doesn't. It never has. And if you look at the degree to which that has been the answer to society's problems, it hasn't solved any of them. We're going to have the war on poverty that started in the 60s. It didn't solve that problem. It just moved the pieces on the chessboard, and it allowed people to become dependent and less useful to society. The goal should be to make people more useful to society. The goal should be to allow everyone to participate and be a part of society, not just be a ward of the state. And now we've got third-generation people that are wards of the state and know that system very well, but not necessarily how to be productive in society. So the way in which we've got to move back to states and cities and counties, that's the direction. That's really the only way to save, because at a certain point, the catalyst for dictatorships, the catalyst for a socialist system, get put in place, and then D.C. becomes Moscow. And I don't mean to, at this point in history, it's difficult to say that because of the Ukrainian situation. But the truth is, we don't need that much power vested in a tiny, tiny group of constituents in D.C. We need to move away from what Eisenhower would call the military-industrial complex in more ways than one. So that's my 2 cents worth on that one. But TK, I appreciate the time and what you're doing, and people don't realize how much work you do, and I appreciate it.
Well, I like having you on the program and look forward to producing your show coming up soon.
You got it, man.
Moving
have a
ahead
good day.
Forward, you have a great day. You have a great show this morning over on WBT. And call in anytime. You are welcome, as you own the place, so it's your phone.
Thanks, TK. Take care.
Sure thing, man. Take care, y'all. Guys, please, we'll be right back after these messages and, of course, the news and weather break from our friends at WAY.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. New Hanover County Commissioners have voted to move forward with a sales tax referendum that would raise the sales tax by 1/4 cent. The extra money would be used to support public transportation. The referendum would be on the ballot in November for voters to decide on. If approved by voters, it would generate more than $144 million for the county over a 10-year period. Commissioners voted 4-1, with Commission Chair Julia Olson-Boseman voting against the measure. The Department of Justice announcing the arrest of 20 people suspected of drug trafficking in Brunswick County. Local law enforcement arrested 20 people accused of working in the drug trade. They confiscated 1,600 grams of cocaine, 300 grams of heroin, and nearly 10,000 grams of meth, along with dozens of guns. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives led the bust, working with a number of state, federal, and local agencies. 18 of the 20 arrested were from Wilmington and Leland, and Columbus and Bladen counties. At the pump, it looks like there may be a light at the end of the tunnel as gas prices begin to trend down. The average price of gas in North Carolina fell 9.5 cents per gallon in the last week. The average price is $4.08 according to Gas Buddy's survey of about 6,100 stations across the state. Prices in North Carolina are 66 cents per gallon higher than a month ago and $1.40 higher than a year ago. And as the American Idol judges continue their search for the next singing sensation, we know one local face who made it to Hollywood. Columbus County High School student Riley Madison got a golden ticket to Hollywood during her appearance on March 13th. The 16-year-old will also appear on the Hollywood Week episode on March 28th. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with the Storm Track 3 forecast. Today going to be another nice one here in the Cape Fear. Should stay dry and quiet with a mixture of sunshine and clouds, and those clouds really start to build in later this evening. But our high temperatures today going to get into the low to middle 70s for both coastal and those inland communities. But for tonight, mostly cloudy skies in store for us. South winds at about 5 miles per hour, and we're going to stay mild as our temperatures fall down into the middle and the upper 50s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
If you want to talk about culture and politics without all the caterwauling, then you'll love Hertel Radio with me, your host, Andrew Donaldson, every weekday morning, 6 a.m. with a replay at 3 p.m. right here on the Big Talker. Catch it on the Listen Live tab on the app or watch on the Facebook page.
Well, hey, y'all, it's Holly Brewer
and Amy Ludwig and Kristen Ludwig
from Just Think, the podcast where we don't want to tell you what to think. We just challenge you to do it. We're happy to have some of our episodes featured right here on 106.7 The Big Talker on Saturdays at 11 a.m. So we hope you join us in the conversation and most importantly, just think.
One Love Tennis started in 2013 to give back to young boys and girls. We now go through 460 kids a week that are learning about life skills, learning to succeed in life through academics and tennis. Putting those two together, if you do them well, you can write your own ticket. To get involved in this program, go to our website, one-love-tennis.org.
We back. On the Big Talker Network, we never shut up. You are listening to The Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. That's right. Everybody just lost their minds. Everything's out of control. And every other morning show in this region, every other morning show on the planet is exactly the same except this one. We are unique. Whether that's good or bad, that's up to you. That's why you should go to the BigTalker.live website, BigTalker.live, and click on that email link so you can send us any questions, comments, concerns, critiques, or compliments you may have so that we can become more of the talk radio program you would like to be a part of. Don't forget to tell your friends. I mean, we dig that you're listening and watching and paying attention. More of us could do that. That would be swell. In fact, it would be fun to start a little phone campaign where every phone number that you hear on this station, several people should call up and say, hey, just wanted to let you know I heard your ad on the Big Talker. Thanks for supporting my favorite station. That would be bonus right there. I can't do it because I already have all the numbers, and it's not fair. But if you, dear loyal listener, would do me a favor and call these individuals and say, hey, I heard your spot on the Big Talker. And if you heard it on the Asylum, let them know that you have found a new refuge in a world gone mad. And that would go a long way to let them know that their support of our community-based radio programming is something that they are a part of, and they are appreciated for their support. So if you would, sometime, take a moment to call 1, 2, 3, several of the numbers, and just let them know, hey, I heard your spot on the Big Talker and just wanted to say thank you. Doesn't cost you anything except a few moments of your time, which is indeed the most precious commodity you own. So that's kind of a nice little bonus, if you will. Working on all the other programming, as you heard from Chad. We're working on having him back. It's fun to have pushback with him, to bring up an argument from another show and let him have his moment with it. Pointing out that indeed, as we have progressed through history to our modern situation, that maybe we don't have it fixed, but at least we're paying attention at some level. And that's sort of important. Moving forward. Yep. And with the confirmation hearings, I wasn't as able, due to my other work schedule, to pay attention to it directly, but had fun watching some of the headlines go by in my news feed this morning. And to have a discussion on a specific incident makes sense. Some of the others do not. But this is indeed, as Chad pointed out, the question of the candidates' voting history was again offered up as a point of pride for many of the candidates on the All Things Brunswick program that premieres on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and the Big Talker Network at 6 p.m. on Tuesdays. All of the judicial candidates on that program were quite open about their voting history. Please take a look. You can tell that I am consistent based on this philosophy, based on this interpretation and discussion on constitutional rights, etc. That it is not the judge's job to invent the law, it's their job to apply the law. So, with that in mind, having that question flagged as inappropriate does seem to be a bit out of order. I wasn't there, but I'm sure our friend Andrew Donaldson is going to have some experts weigh in, people who either have been there or understand this a lot better than I do. And that's one of the things we were talking about with Chad, was that diversity necessary to help, what's the word, disassemble or destroy this incredible extremist continuity issue that we seem to have. Continuum, I should say. Because the statement was, each political party defines, the extreme of one party defines the extreme of the other. So if we can eliminate that little pissing match, maybe we can get a little bit closer to the fulcrum and maybe balance out this issue to the best of everybody's interest, instead of making it a shouting match or an attention-getting festival. Not every gathering do you need to be the center of attention. Sit down. Realize that the decorum of the environment in which you find yourself supersedes your selfish need for attention. And please, for the people in those districts, do not vote for them again. And stop. One of the things we should do is find a way to eliminate the pressure from some of these outside sources. Again, one of my arguments would be to remove money from the political parties all the way around. No more PACs, no more advertisements, none of that. There would be, however, mandatory debates and discourse that, that's what you get. You get to show up there and talk about who you are. You don't get to slam on your other people. But at the same time, I think the moderators should be absolutely vicious. They should have like a team of 30 or 40 researchers going through each candidate's history voting-wise. Everything about them as a candidate. And question them deeply. Like these two morons, or rather convicted felons, running for office in Charlotte. I know we don't have a big following in Charlotte, but if anybody knows somebody in Charlotte, please make them aware that a couple of convicted felons, at least one of which was convicted of bribery while in office, wants to run for office again. And since there is no barrier to entry, we need to be that barrier. Or I should say, you in that district need to be that barrier. Let them know that they are not welcome and certainly not allowed to be in the same room as the buckets of money that the taxpayers have come up with. All right? So enough of that. Oi. I dropped something kind of important. It's a small garage, and we're doing what we can to fit everything in here, so your patience is greatly appreciated. That is on our list of growth. Things like the new and improved, updated, and fancified Big Talker app for your Android and iOS device is coming. The website is updated, new look, new feel. And more being added to that every day, every week. New guests, new programming coming to the Big Talker station. I mean, this is a big beast, and it takes a second to get it moving, so You know, I can't make everything happen in a day, but I'm doing what I can with what I got. I mean, that's the mark of a good engineer, right? I mean, I have machines in here that are probably as old as I am, and they've been repurposed in the 21st century, and some of them argue a little bit now and again, and give me a little bit of a fit, but I usually generally prevail. And one of those improvements as we build, as we grow, as we bring on new sponsors and new content, we'll be able to move this entire operation to an actual studio that I hope I get to design, because I would really, really like to have a proper production studio, like the big boys, do some real production, have some big folk come in, do some big shows. So we have a path, we have a dream, we have a design, we have an idea. And the reason why we're called the Big Talker Network is we don't plan to stop with just a few shows here on the Big Talker Network. We hope to branch out and expand into more media management and distribution. So if you have a show you would like to develop, or have a show that is in development or being produced and would like to have greater access to the interwebs, let us know. We can certainly get you into the family, into the fold, and get your message out to more people for less than you would expect. And make it look good. Just like Will Smith in that black suit in Men in Black. Make that look good. That's the whole idea. But I digress. Working on these developments is a full-time, almost job, trying to keep everything running and going forward. That's why we need your help in letting our sponsors and supporters know that you hear their message. Give them a call. And hey, if you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, click the like or whatever buttons and subscribes and whatever. Please let us know. Let the world know that there's a little thrashing independent radio station in southeastern North Carolina making big waves across the planet for anybody and everybody interested in the issues that face southeastern North Carolina. And one of those was the let's see. I had a discussion with my friend a little bit a while back. Oh, yes. So apparently there's now a federal level investigation into Mark Meadows. And I'd asked about that on this show long before it broke at the national level. I was already on it with that first question, with that first interview, with that first article. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Meadows is still registered in Scaly Mountain, North Carolina, in a 14 by 42 or 16 by 42 trailer, while living in a $1.6 million mansion in South Carolina. So how representative of North Carolina was he if he had to manufacture, get it, manufacture, it was a trailer, manufactured home, had to manufacture his registration information, which, by the way, it's apparently against the law to put incorrect or misleading or false information on your voter registration card. How ironic is that? Especially when your entire platform for getting attention is voter fraud. So as long as you're going to scream about voter fraud, it helps to contribute to the very cause that you're fighting against. So I guess in that regard, you create your own Bellerophon for your chimera to win. Or is it the other way around? You created the chimera. You were the chimera for Bellerophon to swoop in and save the day. Yes, Keep those characters in mind, Bellerophon and Chimera. There is an interesting relationship there that I think is very inherent in our political structure. In fact, I would say it's in our social structure, where we have a number of people speaking out about things, whether it's LGBTQ stuff or anything else, and then get busted doing the exact same thing, like in a hotel room with a little boy. All of these hypocrisies, etc., are still no barrier to entry. Well, except maybe one. And that's so ridiculously high that like less than 0.1% of the population would be barred from office. We need to modify that bar so it eliminates at least 30%. I mean, there should at least be like a civics test. That if you don't understand how the branches of government work, and if you can't name the cities in your district, or the businesses or industries in your district, then you know, if you don't know anything about your district, you should not be representing that district. You shouldn't even be a candidate. If you care about politics, then it should be that you care about the community, not about politics. Because politics is supposed to be the mechanism by which you can improve your community. And instead, it's turned into a money-grabbing bucket fight. And it's less about the solution and more about the fight. And that's where the whole pro wrestling metaphor comes in and applies accurately, because we're more interested in the flash and trash than we are about the substance and issues. And that's our fault because, you know, as Andrew so succinctly put it, we have the government we deserve. These are the people we voted for. Therefore, these are the people we must want representing us. Therefore, these people must be who we are. Right? If they represent us, then we all wear suits with MBAs with more money than God and no concern for the world whatsoever. I don't think that's entirely true. I think a lot of us volunteer and donate a lot of our time and money, far more so than these people do, trying to solve and address the very issues that these people are yelling and arguing and throwing rocks and calling names about. Doesn't make sense. That's not the type of progress we're looking for. If you feel differently, please call in and tell us what's on your mind. Right? Because this isn't a vacuum. This is all of us. And if we aren't voting, if we aren't paying attention, then we end up with stuff like convicted felons running for office in Charlotte for embezzlement, bribery. I mean, if that's who we are, a bunch of dishonest, backstabbing crooks, then yeah, these two convicted felons should be indeed the perfect representative for Charlotte. That's how y'all want to be known. Have at it. Apparently the man's an American, so you can vote for an American. An American convict. And that's not name calling. That's not like the Captain Groupon I got called out on for earlier, which, you know, was appropriate. No, this man, these two guys are indeed convicted felons. They are convicts. They are felons. Ex-cons, or whatever you want to call them. Jailbirds. Bad actors. And yet they're back on the ballot. Make sure over there in Western North Carolina, y'all are paying attention in the Queen City. And make sure that you let your government know that you do not want to be represented by a convicted felon, that your community should not be represented by felons, as your community is not a collection of felons to be represented by a like-minded individual. So in the court of public opinion, which is where our voting comes from, this is where we can install our bar. We should be able to say for ourselves, this is my red line. No matter how you are about anything else, and maybe this is legit, maybe it isn't, I don't know. Because Chad did point this out, the one thing, and they just hate that guy. But I think it's necessary at some point. So if the guy seems shady in one area, and we find out he's shady in one or two other areas, not necessarily illegal, but maybe unethical or immoral, we can ask ourselves, in an overall view, is this representative of who I am and what I am working for? Because again, that's the whole idea behind a representative. It's not the slogan, it's not the logo, it's not the cutesy little dress or the colorful tie. It's not the rhetoric, it's not the slogans or the chants. None of that. None of that matters when it's time to vote on issues that affect your community. And that's why I think it's up, that's it, and it is up to us. I don't even think it just is. It's up to us. Who we vote for determines what type of leadership, what type of representation we have. And I, for one, really don't want to be represented by felons. I really don't. So please, pay a little more attention to who you're voting for. Which is why we have programs like Her Tell in the morning. All Things Brunswick this evening at 6 p.m. It's all about paying attention. Please, hey, don't go nowhere. We'll be right back on the Asylum. Your refuge in a world gone mad, right here on the Big Talker. Don't go nowhere.
Keeping Wilmington informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach. We wouldn't sell you a dining room table, so don't buy a medical device from a furniture store. US Med Express is Wilmington's leading supplier of Golden Technology lift and sleep chairs, carrying a variety of models in our showroom at 1733 Dawson Street. Our chairs lead the industry in power lift recliner features and advances in technology. Our chairs are FDA certified as medical devices, which means it's 100% tax deductible and helps with a number of medical conditions, including arthritis, poor circulation, and sleep apnea. Give us a call today at 910-500-6162 or stop by and experience our chairs for yourself at 1733 Dawson Street. That's 910-500-6162. 1733 Dawson Street in Wilmington. US Med Express.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. New Hanover County Commissioners have voted to move forward with a sales tax referendum that would raise the sales tax by a quarter cent. The extra money would be used to support public transportation. The referendum would be on the ballot in November for voters to decide on. If approved by voters, it would generate more than $144 million for the county over a 10-year period. Commissioners voted 4-1, with Commission Chair Julia Olson-Boseman voting against the measure. The Department of Justice announcing the arrest of 20 people suspected of drug trafficking in Brunswick County. Local law enforcement arrested 20 people accused of working in the drug trade. They confiscated 1,600 grams of cocaine, 300 grams of heroin, and nearly 10,000 grams of meth, along with dozens of guns. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives led the bust, working with a number of state, federal, and local agencies. 18 of the 20 arrested were from Wilmington and Leland and Columbus and Bladen counties. At the pump, it looks like there may be a light at the end of the tunnel as gas prices begin to trend down. The average price of gas in North Carolina fell 9.5 cents per gallon in the last week. The average price is $4.08 according to Gas Buddy's survey of about 6,100 stations across the state. Prices in North Carolina are 66 cents per gallon higher than a month ago and $1.40 higher than a year ago. And as the American Idol judges continue their search for the next singing sensation, we know one local face who made it to Hollywood. Columbus County High School student Riley Madison got a golden ticket to Hollywood during her appearance on March 13th. The 16-year-old will also appear on the Hollywood Week episode on March 28th. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with the Storm Track 3 forecast. Today going to be another nice one here in the Cape Fear. Should stay dry and quiet with a mixture of sunshine and clouds, and those clouds really start to build in later this evening. But our high temperatures today going to get into the low to middle 70s for both coastal and those inland communities. But for tonight, mostly cloudy skies in store for us. South winds at about 5 miles per hour, and we're going to stay mild as our temperatures fall down into the middle and the upper 50s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
O'Leary's Automotive Repair has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
I'm State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better state. We are one of the fastest growing and most reviewed insurance agencies in Wilmington. That's because our customers love the personalized attention that we give to you. Let us help you get to a better state by visiting our website at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. A little after. If you haven't started your day by now, I feel bad for you, son. The day's getting away from you. The school's already started, the bus is already run, the phones are ringing, the chaos has started, you didn't get enough sleep. And that's why you're here with us at the Asylum, which is your refuge in a world gone mad. Available exclusively on the Big Talker Network, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and of course the Big Talker app available for iPhone and Android OS devices, Apple iOS and Android devices. There we go. You can also program your digital home assistants such as Alexa, Google, whatever they are, Siri, so that you can wake up and enjoy hands-free entertainment and information from the Big Talker Network, piped straight to your ear holes through the magic of interwebs technology. The backbone and common reference for all of this technology would be the BigTalker.live website. That's right, BigTalker.live. Over there you will find the schedule of programming on the Big Talker Network, the 24-hour, 24/7 streaming app for your Android, iOS devices, and, of course, your digital home assistants. And, of course, if you're really savvy and Bluetooth your what they call pairing, your mobile device with your automobile's entertainment system, you can enjoy Big Talker wherever your travels may take you. Yes, the website does include an email link, so you can send us messages with any comments, questions, concerns, critiques, or compliments you may have to help us improve as your community radio station. And it's talk radio unlike anybody else, because again, it is just the 4 or 5 of us running it all, keeping it all running. That'd be Andrew, Yael, myself, Ted, and Chad. A lot of content providers, such as the All Things Brunswick I mentioned, and of course Paul Malone from Guns, Politics, and Freedom. His show airs or premieres on Saturdays at 1 o'clock. I believe it is Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning that Yael's show, co-hosted with David Clement out of Canada. That premieres at 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Consumer Choice Radio. Replayed throughout the week, including right after this program. Let's see. What others? Oh, The Herd Tell from Andrew. 6 o'clock every morning premiere on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and the network. And a replay on the Big Talker Network at 3 in the afternoon. So, there's no way you can miss this stuff. I mean, you would have to try. And it's really good content that's going to help you and me. I don't know. A lot of good conversations, because it's not just straight opinion. It's, getting information from people who are in the trenches in that particular, like we want to find out what's in the budget. We call up the county commissioner who's in the same room with that bucket of money and say, hey, we see we took a bunch of money out of this bucket and put it here. Why? Oh, okay. Right? Tried to get a hold of the town council members down in Carolina Beach, still not responding. I will try more aggressively this week. But it was enough for them to say, hey, maybe we should revote or revisit. Maybe we should have a conversation about the parking issue. Boom. They had a conversation about the parking issue. It turned into a vote, and the vote was overturned from the previous decision, or I should say the previous decision was overturned. So change can be made. But it takes paying attention. It takes showing up at these town council meetings. Again, when the initial vote was passed, right, they did it in an empty room. They sort of snuck it in there, I think, or that seems to be the consensus. When the town found out about it, they showed up en masse and dominated the public forum section of the meeting for over 2 hours until the town council said, all right, enough. Let's just vote on it, all right? Let's just vote. And it got defeated. So next year they won't be parking year-round. It was too late for this one, so whatever money they raked in, which I'm sure is nowhere near the something like $35,000 that they expected, nearly $10,000 a month in parking. I mean, that should be the flag right there. If you're expecting $10,000 a month in parking, that's $10,000 less money available to the small businesses on the island to survive during those 3 dead months. Now, I don't think that it got anywhere near $10,000 a month, because they had it, December, January, February, and March. All 4 of those months were paid as they weren't previously, expecting to raise a ridiculous amount of money, which I'm certain they did not. Hopefully we'll get to the bottom of that one and see if we can't iron that one out. Find out, now what? You going to get back to passes? Is that your next conversation? What are y'all going to do? Because some of this is out of hand. One business, 4 vehicles. Last year cost him $400 to park the vehicles for the year. Now it's going to cost him $900. More than double. How do you expect the companies that are supporting you to survive if you're going to tax them to death? And the next thing you know, the only people who can afford to be on Carolina Beach are going to be the big name resorts. And so much for Carolina Beach, you might as well call it Commercial Beach. And if that's the direction you want to go, at least be honest about it. Right? Just do away with all of it. Just tear it all down and just put up 17, 18, 19 different beachfront, high-rise, luxury resorts. Done. Eliminates the parking problem because each resort would have their own parking. And just eliminate all the public beach access. Just eliminate all the on-street parking. If you aren't part of a lodge, you don't get to park. The workers are just going to have to figure something out. Park inland and walk 2 miles or whatever. I mean, y'all are obviously not being friendly to business or to tourists or to the community. You're telling them by way of your charging in these various ways and these various hurdles and expenses. Oh, by the way, all of the non-resident passes have been eliminated. So if you liked to visit Carolina Beach and enjoy a dinner or two and maybe buy a surfboard and go enjoy the water, might as well skip right over Carolina Beach. Because the money that you would be buying a new leash for your board is going to be in the parking meter. $25 a day, by the way. $5 an hour. Done. So if you're making $15 an hour working on the beach, you will be giving up 1/3 of your income to pay for parking just to have that job. How friendly is that, Carolina Beach? And in the current situation, with fuel being in the neighborhood of $4 a gallon, on top of the $5 an hour for parking, you really don't want people to come visit you, do you? Unless, of course, they're rich and visit the high-rise luxury name brand resort. I mean, shoot. I bet the next one is just Trump Beach Resort. Why not? And of course, it will be as successful as the Trump Casino. Because apparently that's the direction Carolina Beach is going, as opposed to being the community beach, being the regional beach, being our beach. It's not. It has become more as exclusive as Wrightsville Beach, which, by the way, has found themselves in the unique position to get bled themselves. Again, their water supply has been tainted by ChemWars with Gen X and other PFAS contaminants that were detected, airborne contaminants. So they're having to buy their water from Cape Fear Public Utility Authority. And if you weren't paying attention, when the wells were first discovered to be tainted, they were buying their water at 62 cents per 1,000 gallons. Apparently that contract ended this month. And apparently without any renegotiation, pushback, or anything whatsoever, Wrightsville Beach is now spending $3.48, I think it is, $3.58, something like that. Nearly $3.50 per 1,000 gallons, from 62 cents to $3.50. So those rich people are getting bled for water. It's cheaper to drink booze on Wrightsville Beach than water right now. I mean, you should just flush your toilet with the vodka you're pouring out in the street. It'll save you money. So Carolina Beach is not far behind. Believe that. And the other communities are paying attention to this. People in Brunswick County, those coastal communities, are watching what's happening in Carolina Beach. And after this latest, display of community response to the parking issue, will probably, what's the word I'm looking for? Deter, that's it. Will probably deter other coastal communities to charge over the off season, right? Because enough people in Carolina Beach came out there to basically lay siege to the town council meeting until that issue was discussed, voted on, and resolved. I don't think the people in Southport are going to try the same thing. Yeah, we already saw that battle take place. And the cross-section of people from employees to employers to business owners to residents are probably going to have very, very similar response. So, yeah, we already learned what happened there, so let's not even try it here. And that's sort of how this whole thing works out. And if someone comes up with a better solution, maybe all of the communities can develop and adopt that solution. It makes it better for everybody, right? Yeah, at least that's the plan. Man. Was going to go to some national news, but none of this is good. None of this is good. Wow. That airline in China, they're China Eastern Airline, they're still looking for it. This is some painful stuff. But this is what sells cars, candy bars, and carpets, by the way. So if anybody wants to, who sells candy bars, carpets, and cars and wants to get a hold of us, we have no problem helping advertise your business here on The Big Talker. Used cars, new cars, carpeting, candy bars. Actually, the candy bars are new. The carpets, however, can be across the board. Gently used, lightly used, heavily used, abused, or brand new on a roll. Anybody who represents those companies, please give us a call. Go to our website, get a hold of our sales attorneys, or no, what are they called? I don't even know. I'm not even sure whose phone that'll ring. But it's a start. Send us an email, and we will certainly do what we can to make it happen for you. Oh, this should be interesting. So a while back, we covered the fiasco that is the Los Angeles Homelessness Services Authority with an $800 million a year budget failing miserably, showing only a 4% transition from homelessness to permanent housing. Here's an article out of The Guardian. "We have failed," is in quote, how one more time. How California's homelessness catastrophe is worsening. A new Guardian U.S. series reports on a seemingly intractable crisis and hears from those living on the edge in America's richest state. When California shut down in March 2020, advocates for unhoused people thought the state might finally be forced to solve its homelessness crisis. To slow the spread of COVID, they hope officials would have to provide people living outside with stable and private shelter and housing. But in the 2 years since, I need to get this more cozy for me. But in the 2 years since, California's humanitarian catastrophe has worsened. Deaths of people on the streets are rising. College students are living in their cars. More elderly residents are becoming unhoused. Encampment communities are growing at beaches, parks, highway underpasses, lots, and sidewalks. California has the 5th largest economy in the world, a budget surplus, the most billionaires in the U.S., and some of the nation's wealthiest neighborhoods. Yet, the riches of the Golden State have not yielded solutions that match the scale of the crisis that has been raging for decades. Pandemic-era programs have had some success for a slice of the unhoused population, but many measures have fallen short. Meanwhile, homelessness has become the top issue in political races. Polls in Los Angeles, which is home to 40% of the state's unhoused population, suggests that a majority of voters want their governments to act faster and that residents are angered by the immense human suffering caused by a seemingly intractable crisis. In response, governments across the state are increasingly cracking down on people sleeping outside. Out of the 20 largest cities in California, the majority have passed or proposed new laws banning camping in certain places or have ramped up encampment sweeps. LA and Oakland passed laws meant to prohibit camping in certain zones. San Francisco's mayor has pushed for a police crackdown on unhoused people using drugs in the Tenderloin neighborhood. Fresno adopted a law to fine people up to $250 for entering certain restricted areas. And Modesto, Bakersfield, and Riverside are pushing to expand the number of park rangers in an effort to enforce anti-camping rules and related restrictions. Some unhoused people and civil rights activists warn that those escalating efforts will force people off the streets are only further hurting the most vulnerable. We have failed in so many respects, said Theo Henderson, a Los Angeles advocate for the unhoused who was himself living outside until recently. There are families with children living in automobiles. There are elderly and the infirmed on the streets. It's a dark time right now, and unhoused residents are very afraid. In a new series that will be published over the next several months in The Guardian, examining California's homelessness crisis across the state. While homelessness remains concentrated in major metro areas like Los Angeles, San Jose, the San Francisco Bay Area, and San Diego, communities from the north to the Mexico border are facing their own emergencies. California counted 161,548 unhoused people in the state in January 2020, the most recent data count available. The count is a point-in-time estimate that tallies people living on the streets or in shelters. Since it's a rough snapshot of a single day and doesn't account for people who are hidden from public view or are unhoused but couch surfing at night, it is considered a significant undercount. At least 113,660 of those counted were classified as unsheltered, making California home to more than half of all people without shelter in America, and the only state where more than 70% of the homeless population is unsheltered. By comparison, just 5% of New York's homeless population was unsheltered. The consequences of so many people living outside are severe and fatal. In 2015, the LA County Coroner's Office recorded 613 deaths of unhoused people. That was 2015. That number has steadily climbed each year, rising to 1,609 fatalities in 2021. I mean, that's almost triple. Those figures are an undercount because the coroner only tracks fatalities considered sudden, unusual, or violent. A report by the University of California, Los Angeles last year estimated that overdoses were a leading cause of death of unhoused people during the pandemic. Data analysis have revealed other disturbing trends. One UCLA study estimated that at least 269,000 students from kindergarten to age grade 12 in the state were experiencing homelessness before the pandemic. In Los Angeles County, black residents were 4 times as likely to be unhoused. And also in LA, there was a 20% jump in the number of unhoused seniors, with nearly 5,000 elderly people living outside before COVID arrived. It's just not acceptable, said Wendy Carrillo, a state assembly member who represents parts of LA and chairs a budget committee on homelessness. As a kid, she would pass by Skid Row and struggle to understand why so many people were forced to live outside. She said the crisis has grown since. We've become so disconnected as a society, so cold to the issue that people are okay with stepping over someone who was passed out on the floor. Now, I'm going to intervene here a little bit. As a kid, one of the prevailing nightmare stories that parents told their kids was about the neighbor's kid or their friend's kid or someone else's kid who hopped a bus to Los Angeles to become famous as a movie star or as a rock star or something like that, because that's where the action is. That's what happened. And a lot of people don't want to face the shame or the embarrassment and go back to, planting corn or whatever it is they were doing in the Midwest Nowhereville that they left to come to Los Angeles thinking that they had the claws to make it in the big leagues. That has happened, yes. Some musicians or some actors or actresses have shown up in California with a bus ticket in one hand and a bag in the other, and were able to turn into some amazing American dream. However, that is not the rule. That is the exception. 90% of the people who flock to California for some type of fancy career fail. And it happens in Nash Vegas as well. So many musicians move to Nashville thinking they're going to become the next best thing, only to find out that the busboy at the pizza joint working for $5 an hour to make ends meet could smoke you. And he's struggling just to pay, just to play on a Saturday night for $50. So a lot of these issues are self-imposed. A lot of these problems, a good portion of these people, right? The big move, I can't even remember if it had a name, but it seemed to be the big push, the big support thing to do back in the 80s. Was to help people get back home. Right? From rural Nebraska, you're stuck in Los Angeles, and now you're, halfway to prostitution and pole dancing to make ends meet. Your mom and dad are worried about you. Maybe it's not the most glamorous thing to go home as you perceive it, possibly failed actress or whatever. At least you could be doing a job and providing a function and living in society. It may not have been exactly what you wanted to do, but it's better than living on the streets in Los Angeles. So a lot of these wounds are self-inflicted, and I don't know if I should be, or if, the city or anyone should be held accountable to somebody else's bad choices. That's going to be an interesting discussion to unpack, because there's enough on all sides to say, hey, it's fair. No, it's not. Are you taking into account this, that, or the other? No, I'm not. But I can guarantee you there's a percentage of those people in that situation who inflicted that harm upon themselves. And at most, they should be offered a bus ticket back home. You can go home and work in your own town where you came from and develop your skills, and maybe next time audition virtually or do something that way. Right? I mean, if you think about it, like the story of Dave Letterman. He developed his career as a weatherman in Muncie, Indiana. And he did that for years before he ended up in New York doing the talk show that he became famous for. So yeah, rather than at a high school where you seem to be the most popular, hottest person, most whatever, and you show up in LA, and I guarantee you, you're going to be the bottom 10%. And nobody's going to even notice you. So that percentage of people who are so embarrassed and have turned themselves to drugs or whatever it is to appease that hole in their soul that they dug themselves, you give them a bus ticket back home, 30 days in recovery and a decent gig shucking corn or whatever it is just to keep them out of trouble. I think it'd go a long way, and it's a lot cheaper than spending $800,000 a year just in Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after these words and messages right here on the Big Talker here at the Asylum. Your refuge in a world gone mad. Don't go nowhere.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. New Hanover County Commissioners have voted to move forward with a sales tax referendum that would raise the sales tax by 1/4 cent. The extra money would be used to support public transportation. The referendum would be on the ballot in November for voters to decide on. If approved by voters, it would generate more than $144 million for the county over a 10-year period. Commissioners voted 4-1, with Commission Chair Julia Olson-Boseman voting against the measure. The Department of Justice announcing the arrest of 20 people suspected of drug trafficking in Brunswick County. Local law enforcement arrested 20 people accused of working in the drug trade. They confiscated 1,600 grams of cocaine, 300 grams of heroin, and nearly 10,000 grams of meth, along with dozens of guns. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives led the bust, working with a number of state, federal, and local agencies. 18 of the 20 arrested were from Wilmington and Leland, and Columbus and Bladen counties. At the pump, it looks like there may be a light at the end of the tunnel as gas prices begin to trend down. The average price of gas in North Carolina fell 9.5 cents per gallon in the last week. The average price is $4.08 according to Gas Buddy's survey of about 6,100 stations across the state. Prices in North Carolina are 66 cents per gallon higher than a month ago and $1.40 higher than a year ago. And as the American Idol judges continue their search for the next singing sensation, we know one local face who made it to Hollywood. Columbus County High School student Riley Madison got a golden ticket to Hollywood during her appearance on March 13th. The 16-year-old will also appear on the Hollywood Week episode on March 28th. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with the Storm Track 3 forecast. Today going to be another nice one here in the Cape Fear. Should stay dry and quiet with a mixture of sunshine and clouds, and those clouds really start to build in later this evening. But our high temperatures today going to get into the low to middle 70s for both coastal and those inland communities. But for tonight, mostly cloudy skies in store for us. South winds at about 5 miles per hour, and we're going to stay mild as our temperatures fall down into the middle and the upper 50s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
I'm a boat builder. It's a tough job that takes time, patience, and precision. It's also incredibly rewarding. How many people can say they built a boat from scratch? In our area, there's a great need for people who can build and repair boats. I turned my love for life on the water into a career that I truly enjoy. I went to CFCC for 2 years, got my training, and now I look forward to work every day. You can too. Visit cfcc.edu/boatbuilding and get started today.
Listen to Tom Goolsby on The Chad Adams Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Hey, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Available exclusively on the Big Talker Network. Coming to your ear holes by way of the website at bigtalker.live or the Big Talker app available for Apple iOS and Android devices. And the stream can also be paired with your digital home assistant so you can wake up and enjoy hands-free content from the Big Talker Network throughout the day. Hands-free, convenient, and hands-free. Just use voice commands to say that you want to listen to the Big Talker on whatever home device you have. If I say anything, all four of my Apple devices are going to explode at once, trying to address whatever need it is I may have. Yes, bigtalker.live. The schedule of content is on our website there. Some of our live shows premiering on the network are also on our YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter page. For example, Hertel 6 o'clock in the morning premiere is on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and the network. And then the replay of that program at 3 o'clock here on the network. Tonight, premiere at 6 p.m. And holding true to their recent trend, I should say. There we go. Our friends at All Things Brunswick that will premiere at 6 o'clock this evening. The guest will be Miss Robin Moffett, who's running for school board. So, again, municipal elections and the candidates thereof affect your day-to-day life more than you may realize. So if you want to know more about the candidates than seeing their name on a ballot, this is a good way to do it. Certainly if you live in the Brunswick County area. Again, that's All Things Brunswick this evening at 6 p.m. live right here on the Big Talker Network on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Coming at you live from the GOP headquarters in Brunswick County in Supply, North Carolina. Look forward to having you there. You get to meet the candidate, chat about some of the issues facing the Brunswick area, maybe a bond issue or whatever else is on the ballot. And it'll be a fun discussion. That's why we do this stuff. That's why we have shows like that. And Guns, Politics, and Freedom with Mr. Paul Ballone. Looking out for civil liberties because, if we don't, no one else will. Certainly not the government. All that is a commodity to them if that hasn't been demonstrated yet by the callous behavior of many of our representatives. And that term, I think, is not being used loosely enough. Because these representatives are not representative of who we are, I don't think. I mean, the people that I would want to represent me would be a little more respectful of at least the decorum and sanctity of the process of legislation, and certainly things like the State of the Union address. So there. So if you want to be accurately represented for the type of person that you are with a higher standard, then our representatives should be held to that same standard. But you won't know that if you don't meet your representatives and talk to them, or at least hear them being asked questions that are relevant, as in, what are your philosophies and why should we vote for you? What changes would you make? What problems do you identify? That sort of thing. You get a feel for what's important to them, their priorities. At least that's what they're saying to get elected. And we all know that story. We've all seen that movie before. Yeah. But that game has to be played somehow. And I guess the biggest disappointment for me in politics is that there isn't somebody with a belt standing above these guys. So whenever they do something stupid, inappropriate, completely out of order, outlandish, heinous, embarrassing, they get taken behind the woodshed and just tuned up. I mean, you wouldn't act like that in church. And that's what I was taught as a boy, is that you treat these halls with the same respect you would show the sanctuary of a church. It is that important to who we are as a country, as a people. And that should be true for our theaters. It should be true for other monuments of this nature, because they are a collective demonstration of our capabilities. You may not be Catholic, but you can certainly appreciate the art, energy, focus, human interest that went into that. Same thing with many of our theaters and our museums. And when you have official proceedings these are solemn occasions. And acting out during one of these solemn occasions is certainly grounds for, getting tuned up behind the woodshed. So yeah, we need like a dad figure. A wise old dad figure with a whole like plantation of switches. You could just pluck a fresh one for each one. You can actually do like they did to, in my parents' generation. Go on down the end of the road there, pick you out a switch, and you bring it home. You picked your own, whether it wasn't Dad's belt. In my case, it was Dad's belt, or fist, or hand, or whatever, boot. Not the same. But certainly someone to set these people straight that you don't behave like that here. This is inappropriate type of BS, and you should have your backside walloped. Physical correction of attitude. But then again, that's the whole basis of why we have a constitution, is that there is no one person that we can trust. I mean, we already tried that the last 4 years. The fealty that the last person had was just nauseating. It was very worrisome. The residuals of which still have not died off. The half-life of that particular insanity is showing incredible resilience, which is bothersome. Because one of the first things I was taught as a boy is that you should never worship a person. You can worship an idea. Certainly support an idea, and you can support a person to be a representative. But to worship them, to think that they have no. That is so distasteful all the way around. There is no one person. No. I don't care if they're an actor or an MBA or a lawyer. Doesn't matter. No one person knows it all. It's just no. So when I see the type of nauseating fealty of business owners in the area, certainly one right here near my house, who has replaced their own business sign with this sign, with their little "Let's Go Brandon" and Trump 2024 signs. They took down their own company sign to do that. Tell me that's not ridiculous. I mean, that's beyond ridiculous. That's nauseating. That's insulting, really. So with that in mind, maybe next round we pick a little better our representatives. How's that? Deal? And now that we're in the 21st century, I think we can add a little more respect to all of this. Instead of driving ourselves and each other further and further down the continuum away from the focal point or the fulcrum, and start coming together a little bit more, as Andrew pointed out, if some of the NRA and some of the hunters and some of the ecologists got together, they'd realize they had more in common than they might realize. And then from there, they can, effect solution, effect change, just like they did at Carolina Beach. But it's not going to happen in a vacuum, and it's not going to happen with representatives who are more interested in themselves than they are in the people they represent. Certainly in the case where the radio DJ was quizzing a candidate for their district, and they could not name the highway or the famous, they couldn't name anything about the district that they wanted to represent. And I'm hoping she was embarrassed enough to get off of the ballot. or at least enough that the people who were voting didn't consider her. And she got the vast minority of the votes, if she got any votes at all. That would be my preference. Just like Mark Meadows trying to represent North Carolina by... I consider it an illegitimate voter registration of a 16 by 42 mobile home in Scaly Mountain, North Carolina. We need to change how, at the local level, we choose our representatives. I don't care if you're in Iowa. I don't care if you're in California. All the way around, we could do with re-evaluating how we as individuals continue to vote these thugs, criminals, and shady characters into our system. And how it is we let them back. There should be a common sense barrier to entry that would prevent some of these people from returning to office. Again, if you can't vote for yourself, you should not be able to run. If you can't vote, you should not run. Because we have deemed, as the framers did, that if you have committed a felony, you do not have the interest in the greater community to be trusted with a vote. Why the hell should we trust you to be the representative? If we don't allow you to vote for the representative, that should be an automatic no. You can't run for office. You're a convicted felon. You're not allowed to own a handgun. You shouldn't be allowed to vote. I mean, that was how I was taught as a kid. That's how it worked. Why we're undoing any of that makes absolutely no sense. The two rules for voting should be the same two rules, well, primary rules, for running for office. Must be an American. And you can't have a felony conviction. Right? Those are the two things. If you have a felony conviction, you don't get to vote. If you have a felony conviction, you don't get to run for office. Boom. Simple. Solved. And we wouldn't have this fiasco developing in Charlotte where we have two convicted felons who are going to take votes away from people who are actually interested in helping and being a representative for the community without embezzling or bribery. So that could be easily automatically implemented. All you do is just say, look, the same rules that apply for voting apply for running for office. Any office. The judicial side has their own higher bar. I guess that's why they call it the bar. That if a judge is convicted of anything, they are no longer allowed to be a judge. Boom. They might be a lawyer again, depending on if they were disbarred and what they had to do to get their credentials or authorization to practice law back. But they don't get to be a judge again. They'll never be a judge again. No. So why can't we apply these same simple standards? And it's a pretty low bar, man. It's not at the super extreme that you have to be convicted of one or two specific crimes in order to be ineligible for office. This is a simple one. If you've already been stripped of your right to vote by your own actions, then you should not be allowed to run for office. It's as simple as that. I mean, that's holy cow. And certainly if you were convicted while in office for doing something related to your office, that should be an easy writ right there. Just no. You lost that opportunity. I don't care about expungements or pardons. And it shouldn't be on the burden of the people to not vote for you. Because again, you're still a distraction to the people that are actually trying to be effective representatives in the community. Just go away. Go flip burgers or whatever it is you do, because if you're not trained to do anything, if you have no marketable skill, I mean, that would be one of the barriers I would put in. If you haven't developed your own ability to do things, right? Like, if you don't have your own employment, like this reality star that tried to run for, he might even still be on a ballot, I don't know. But the guy has no marketable skill. He's never had an actual job in his life. He's probably still living with mommy and daddy, or the residuals of whatever failed attempt he did recently, or whatever it is. Because obviously he's not making it as a failed reality star. So hey, let's run for office. No. That right there should be a barrier to entry. You have done nothing to prove yourself as a contributing member to the community that you want to represent. If you want to convince me, and I'm not the brightest voter, that I should vote for you, then I need to see that you are walking what you're talking. Show me that you've been managing or running a soup line for 20 years. Now you can talk to me about the plight of the homelessness, because you've been there doing that work. You want to talk about the look of our environment and how you want to hire more of this, that, and the other thing, when I haven't seen you participate once in a one-bag challenge in your life. I'm going to have a hard time believing that you have the same interest in your community as you say you do. Certainly, if your previous actions have shown you to be an untrustworthy thief, embezzling, bribing, accepting, horrible human being, felon, ex-convict, then yes, you should be shamed right out of the primary. You should be shamed right off the ticket. So maybe we need to, more judiciously curb some of the insanity surrounding how these elections happen and these representatives running for those offices. I mean, I don't know if anybody remembers the Brian Berger episodes we had here in Wilmington. The guy was just a walking crime. And yet we voted him into office, and then we couldn't get rid of him. I mean, it's like the whole state of North Carolina had stepped in a big pile of dog poop, and we were just tracking that stuff everywhere. We could not get rid of this guy. Passed out in the middle of the road with his car still in drive, but he can't go anywhere because his car is, bucked up against a stoplight. He's passed out drunk. This is who we want representing us? Really? Come on now, ladies and gentlemen. We need to, look at this mechanism a little bit closer and respect it for the power that it has over our lives. And maybe be a little bit more responsible with our participation in it. You know what I'm saying? So, maybe look before you leap. Look before you vote. I have to admit I have not been the most diligent about that in my past. I did vote more often in things that I understood than on things I didn't, or people I knew versus people I did not know. Which meant a lot of the boxes went unchecked on many of my votes because I did not know anybody in that particular race and hoped that it wouldn't apply to me. Well, look what happened. We end up with people like Mark Meadows. Oh, sorry. We end up with people like convicted felons taking bribes, running for office again. We can fix that. And I hope that more listeners, more viewers, more participants in the Big Talker family will pay attention to that In fact, I expect them to visit the Big Talker Live, bigtalker.live website. And, of course, to send us some emails. And, of course, to get a hold of their representatives. And, of course, my favorite, contacting some of these people on our station and giving them a call and saying, hey, I may not need your service right now, but just wanted to let you know, thank you for being a part of the Big Talker family and supporting one of my favorite morning talk shows, even if it's not my show. Just whatever show it is on the Big Talker that you enjoy. More than one, all of them, none of them, whatever. But the fact that we are an independent pirate radio, for the most part, internet radio station with absolutely no corporate oversight. We have a freedom enjoyed by very few in the talk radio industry, which is why we can have the people we have, the conversations we have. There are certain conversations that other radio stations cannot have for risk of upsetting the corporate faction. Here it's just the five of us. If you're upset about something, please, bigtalker.live, hit that email link. We'd love to hear your questions, comments, concerns, critiques, and compliments, because that's how we improve, is by the feedback of the people in the community that we're serving. I would like to even go so far as to say that we may even be a better representation of our community than the people we elected. How'd that grab you? Maybe it's a bit narcissistic in a way, but it can't be that far off. That's all there is to that. Because we're having conversations with the people involved. We got people on the phone. Hey, you're in Carolina Beach. What's going on with the parking? Man, I'm not sure, but I tell you what, I'm going to be there March 8th. And they did. They showed up. They made a change. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoy being a part of this. We get those conversations going. We get that energy going. We get it focused properly. Get away from the noise. Get to the issue. Solve the problem. Hey, that's going to do it for me on the Asylum this morning. Tune in tomorrow for even more, including the River Watch Wednesday segment with Dr. Cahoon from the CapeFearRiverWatch.org. And I love this tune. But anyway, we will see you in the morning. Bertel at 6, the Asylum at 7. Tonight, all things Brunswick, 6 p.m. Keep it tuned right here to the Asylum, to the Big Talker Network. We never shut up.
Keeping Bald Head Island informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.